And it's really hard to know which is worse, whether it's the outpourings of the Obamas themselves or the sycophantic fawning over them by sections of the media and the political establishment. The protestations of Obama himself in his speech to the children in Northern Ireland about peace, when he said, "Those who choose a path of peace, I promise you that the United States of America will support you every step of the way. We will be the wind at your back." Now I ask you, is this person going for the Hypocrite of the Century award? Because we have to call things by their right names. And the reality is that by any serious examination, this man is a war criminal. He has just announced his decision to supply arms to the Syrian opposition, including the jihadists, fueling the destabilisation of that region and continuing to undermine secularism and knock back conditions for women. This is the man who is in essence stalling the Geneva peace talks by trying to broker enhanced leverage for the Syrian opposition by giving them arms, and to hell with the thousands more who lose their lives, or the tens of thousands more who will be displaced as this war goes on. This is the man who has facilitated a 200% increase in the use of drones, which have killed thousands of people, including hundreds of children. And you, Taoiseach, you are the one who's turned a blind eye on these activities. You've talked about the G8 being an opportunity to showcase Ireland. But is it not a reality that you have showcased us as a nation of pimps, prostituting ourselves in return for a pat on the head? To be honest with you, we were really speculating this morning whether you were going to deck the cabinet out in leprechaun hats decorated with a bit of stars and stripes to really mark abject humiliation here.
So one issue that Judge Garland would likely never be able to consider if he were confirmed concerns the president's authority to conduct drone strikes away from active battlefields. Mm-hmm. And these are strikes that you have continuously authorized on the basis of vague legal standards that you unilaterally deem to be satisfied in each case without ever appearing before a court, and in the process killing hundreds of innocent civilians as well as, in some cases, American citizens. So my question is, how are these killings morally and legally justified? And what kind of message does this drone program send about America's values to the world, the American people, and to law students like myself who refuse to put our trust in an opaque process?
Okay, I think that's a great question. Although I will say that I will dispute some of the underlying premises that you asserted as facts. But I think it's an important topic, and it's a fair one. The challenge for me as Commander-in-Chief has consistently been, how do you think about this new technology in a way that is consistent with morality, ideals, laws of war, but is also consistent with my first priority as President and Commander-in-Chief, which is to keep all of you safe, including you. And so I think it's fair to say that in the first couple of years of my presidency, the architecture, legal architecture, administrative architecture, command structures around how these were utilized was underdeveloped relative to how fast the technology was moving. So another way of saying this is our military or our intelligence teams started seeing this as really effective, and they started just going, let's move. And it was, the decision-making was not ad hoc, but it was embedded in decisions that are made all the time about, you know, a commander leading a military operation or an intelligence team trying to take out a terrorist. And there wasn't enough of an overarching structure. Right? So you may recall, but if not, I'm sure we can send it to you. I gave a speech at the National Defense University in which I said that we have to create an architecture for this. What I've also said is that we need to start creating a process whereby whereby public accountability is introduced, so that you or citizens or members of Congress outside of the Intelligence Committee can look at the facts and see whether or not we're abiding by what we say are these norms. And we're actually, there's a lot of legal aspects to this, because part of the problem here is that this drone program initially came through the intelligence side under classified programs as opposed to the military. Part of what I've also said is, I don't want our intelligence agencies being a paramilitary organization. That's not their function. As much as possible, this should be done through our Defense Department so that we can report, here's what we did, here's why we did it, here's our assessment of what happened. And so slowly we are pushing it in that direction. My hope is that by the time I leave office, there is not only an internal structure in place that governs these standards that we've set, but there's also a institutionalized process whereby the actions that the U.S. government takes through drone technology are consistently reported on an annualized basis, so that people can look. And the reason this is really important to me, and this was implied in your question, is there is a lot of misinformation about this. There is no doubt, and I said this in an interview, I think recently, there's no doubt that some innocent people have been killed by drone strikes. I guess I should stop there. But thank you for the question. It was a legitimate one.